Hi, my name is Ronnie Dean Harris. My traditional name is Malithuk. Welcome to the traditional territory of the Spuzzum First Nation. My ancestors have lived here since time immemorial, and we want to show you a very special, magical spot that's very dear to us near the ancient village site of Kikwalus. Come on. So this Narrows has been a crossing point connecting the coast to the interior for millennia. It's also the place where Coyote the Transformer taught the people here how to fish. And to this day, it has some of the best fishing spots in the lower Fraser River. In 1863, the newly minted colony of British Columbia saw the importance of this spot and built a bridge that was a key link in the Caribou Wagon Road to the interior. The engineers who built the bridge had no way of getting the massive cables across that were needed to hand the bridge deck from one side of the river to the other, so they turned to the people who knew the river best, an Indigenous paddler and his freight canoe. In 1894, the old bridge was destroyed by massive floods on the Fraser River that year. But in 1926, the BC government built a highways bridge right on top of the old Caribou Wagon Road foundations. For decades, this bridge did what Indigenous canoes had done for millennia, connecting the coast to the interior, this time by automobile. Many people have lots of stories about driving their family camper vans across here only to meet a freight truck halfway through. But mostly, they remember this river, these mountains, this landscape. In 1964, the government built a new bridge 2 kilometers downstream as a part of the Trans-Canada Highway. The 1926 Alexandra Bridge was decommissioned, but it remained a vital transportation link for the Spuzzum First Nation and others. It started to be affectionately referred to as Old Alexandra Bridge. People like Spuzzum First Nation's elder Annie York describe how she and the people continued to walk across the bridge which linked the Spuzzum First Nation's land on the west side of the Fraser River to the east, where many of their loved ones were buried. Over the years, this beautiful Art Deco style bridge has been neglected and fallen into decay. It needs a lot of love if it's going to stay standing. In 2009, the Spuzzum First Nation partnered with New Pathways to Gold Society to preserve and restore this icon of BC transportation history. Over the next 12 years, they built a coalition of groups dedicated to restoring the bridge in this unique place.
We're going to be cutting a ribbon today to commemorate some of the work that's getting started to rebuild the old historic bridge.
I mentioned that the bridge needs a lot of love. After years of planning and networking, the project partners received funding from the province of BC and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to begin restoration work on the bridge. That work, carried out by Heritage Masonry with the guidance of Heritage Works and Associated Engineering, determined the scope and scale of what was needed to restore the bridge. After a lot of experimentations and trial and error, the project partners found the formula to rehabilitate the concrete masonry, something that was celebrated by everyone, especially the Spuzzum First Nation.
The bridge has many meanings, but to me it represents reconciliation between different cultures.
The bridge has had some love, but we need a whole lot more to preserve it for the future generations. Here's what we need to do next. The bridge's cables need attention. After all, they've been hanging out in all kinds of weather since 1926, and the saddles that hold them, they need a lot of work on them too. And that old Caribou Wagon Road foundation? The grout's got gout, so to speak, and needs attention. You might say, why put a bunch of money into a bridge that doesn't get a single commuter to work? That's never going to carry a car. Here's a couple of reasons.
If we lose these components, then the stories are harder to tell.
The more exciting part of it is our future and how that bridge can form part of First Nations economic development in the region.
Most appropriately, now that we've discovered that the reclamation can be successful, then we should proceed.
This isn't just a bridge from one side to another. It's a bridge between cultures. It represents the multicultural experience of British Columbia. Indigenous people, fur traders, gold seekers, Chinese pioneers and railway workers, and highway workers who built this structure. This place is a focal point for our conversation about Indigenous reconciliation and how we treat each other in modern British Columbia. It's also an example of reconciliation in action, of how many different groups have come together to share their stories, good and bad, that shape our shared history. We urgently need your support to save the 1926 Alexandra Bridge. Any financial or in-kind support you can provide will help us keep the story going and carry on the conversation. Cook's Gem.